What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Araña comes out tomorrow, and she's looking pretty good for a one-cost card with the new ability of Activate. Today, Alex and I are going to break her down and what she offers for decks and her versatility, viability, and, of course, synergies. We're also going to be talking about the OTA that changed a lot. War Machine is one of the craziest cards in the game. My girl Arrow got touched up, and a whole lot of nerfs alongside it. So we're going to break down our thoughts on the OTA as we lead into our favorite cards of every cost this season. Alex and I are going to break down which cards we think have been our favorite and most useful so far in the September season. And we're going to talk about that all today more in this episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I am joined by the one and only Mr. Alex Coccia. Hello, my friend. Typically, a couple weeks ago, we filmed early by a few days. And today, it's like Cinderella, the clock strikes midnight. We're barely going to get this thing out in time. It's going to go out in the morning. Probably no sleep for either of us. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles. What's going on, guys? And welcome back. Alex, how are we doing today?
Buddy, I'm doing great. The meta's in a great spot. The game feels solid. They took a completely garbage card and made it completely overpowered. What's there not to like about Marvel Snap right now? It's a complete smorgasbord of chaos.
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. With every archetype, right? Like, we're getting a little bit of move stuff, obviously with Madam Web, but then we have Clog, we have Loki and Airsham, people that want to do that. Surfer, Destroy, Discard, all those competitive lists. You have the Zoo decks as well that, you can definitely play. Bounce. It feels like a little bit of everything's eating. And then you also have like the combo decks, right? The Symbiote, Galactus nonsense. Like, you've got those fun kind of flavored decks in there as well. Crazy OTA to get everything just going wild. We won't get ahead of ourselves here, but War Machine has the classic. I love this change. It's amazing. I hate this. This is the worst card in the game. All over Twitter, written on it. But it's bound to be a good conversation over here, man. And we know what we're talking about over here. It's a lot. We got a lot to break down. Alex, what are we talking about on your side?
Cozy, on my side of the Snapchat, we're going to be discussing Madam Web in review, going over some statistics, its decks, and our general thoughts on the card after an entire week of having it in the meta. We'll also be talking about the archetype MVPs, going through the cards that we think carry the individual archetypes of Marvel Snap as the meta gets more diverse. We want to talk about the champions of each archetype, and then, as always, our Snapchat mailbag.
Well, you can see by the title below that looks awful, if I'm being honest, is Araña a one-cost game changer. Now, this is going to be the complement to last week in Madam Web. We have another move card that's only going to accelerate her. But also, many are saying that she is the card this month. And we talked about her before in the preview. We both definitely saw the potential. It's a one-cost card with a pretty dramatic effect. And really, the main key thing is the Activate ability. For those that don't know, she's a one-cost, one-power card. Activate, give the next card you play +2 power, and then you're going to move it to the right. So you've got essentially what Forge was before his change back to the 2. That's just her as a card. And then you have that as an Activate ability. A lot of cards, a lot of decks, a lot of archetypes. You're going to love this. Before we go into her any further, though, Miss Marvel and Sage is the Spotlight Week. What are we feeling?
This is a great Spotlight Week.
Yeah.
I think this is a very strong Spotlight Week. Listen, Araña is going to be fantastic. I almost want to say it with a little bit of a heavy Araña, right? I got to get right in there, right? I think the Spotlight caches are remarkable. Miss Marvel is making a comeback in the meta right now, and I think that actually, ironically, Madam Web is a huge part of that. And you got Sage, who honestly is a remarkably powerful card in a number of different archetypes. Yep. Not as flexible as, Araña is likely to be. However, Sage has an incredible amount of power output, which is going to be pretty fundamental to a lot of decks, in particular Bounce, even kind of some Surfer decks as well. She always finds her way into a number of decks that want that power from a 3-cost.
Yeah, man, and Araña is an interesting card to break down. It's a 1-cost, so we always are, hesitant on saying how much can a 1-cost change the game, but really what she does differently compared to something like Silver Sable is that she's going to be setting up a combo later that you can activate at any time, right? Outside of a Killmonger coming in or a Red Guardian, those are the counters. Outside of that, you've got this really cool kind of trick in the bag that you can pull off at any moment with Araña, and I think that's the big appeal. Now, I think we both said 4-star, maybe 4.5 earlier in the month. Are we sticking around that probably?
Dude, so I listened back to that episode, we started with Araña, like we did like our ranking order 1 through 5. We started with Araña at the bottom, and then she ended up at like number 3. Like we both kind of like, wait a minute, this card actually might be better than some of the other ones. And like it was so funny. That conversation was like up and down all over the place because the cards are all so cracked this month. And like they're really like meta shakers in a lot of ways. Yeah, I'm definitely going 4 stars. I can't see this being lower than that. Like this is a very firm 4-star. Like I feel like that's the bottom. That's like I don't see how it could be worse than that. I've just cursed it, by the way.
No, I feel like you're fair. I think 4 is it's kind of low mark, and then depending on how it fits into plug and play is what will kind of elevate that to 5-star, right? So, right off the bat, I'm super interested to see how this continues to help out Madam Web and continues to help out how that card is functioning and working. Listen, we won't get into the in review yet, but I think we could both say anytime you have somebody wanting to go paint and they've never painted before, they're probably going to suck at painting. It's kind of like that with move decks, right? It's tough to play move decks when you haven't before, and so it's fun watching the wider Snap audience, including myself and you probably too, playing move again, and this card is going to add to that with the combos and all the stuff it's going to do. That's the immediate synergy. There's obviously a lot of other synergy, though, and that's where I think she's going to shine. I'm going to give her a 4-star too, just because I think being able to activate this is what's so... If it was just +2, it's cool. The fact, though, that at any point in time, you can move a card to another location, you can set up a combo play, you can wait to get that Shaw or whatever we'll break down here in a moment to set things up. We haven't had that before. And you get 2 birds, 1 stone. Power and move that you can wait for the card draw to happen. That's a massive thing.
The only thing that was giving me some reservation that could have dropped me a little lower than 4 and where it could potentially fall to 3 is if you think about its actual, like, its ceiling, right? Like Silver Sable as a 1-drop is technically a 5-power play, right? It goes to 1/3 and it does 2 toxic damage on the other side, right? So a total of 5 stats is being like accommodated by that card. This is technically 3. However, you're going to be using it in such a way where like it synergizes with cards that want that additional power, so you can sneak out some extra power. But you were right to identify that the major thing here that makes this card special is the activate. This is a very confident play on turn 1 and in the early game as a whole that you can just leave it there. And then you can choose the exact time when you want to effectively use the activate. And now that we've had a chance to use Symbiote Spider-Man, and now we understand how like the activate turn order, how you can control and manipulate the turn order of activate, this makes this card even stronger because you can set up very intricate combos that utilize the activate at any point in the game once it's on the field of play.
Exactly. And outside of her just not working, her floor is 1/3 and her ceiling is beyond that of what you can make it, right? So I think that's the interesting thing. I mean, we talked about, I think in the preview, just playing Araña, activating that into a Forge that then plays down. So you play Forge down, you activate Araña. There are so many cards that after you play that, it is just such a massive boost because you're adding Forge and her together. How much is that curve going to happen? We're not sure, but that's the great part about Araña. You can just have her down, and then you can wait to play that Forge and the combo plays that you're wanting to do. And so this all combines as well. This wasn't on the agenda to talk about, but on Tuesday, it is confirmed Hellcow and Black Swan are getting their activate. So Black Swan, more interesting. It's going to be really cool to see how activate works with that, because then you can just dump a lot of these 1-cost cards as well.
Yeah, so the Black Swan activates is interesting because I think it coincides with what they have changed with Beast. I feel like this has been like the plan all along to like make it so that like, oh, you could Beast cards and then activate Black Swan and effectively get what the old Beast used to be. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's kind of interesting the way that they're playing that out. But ultimately, like, I mean, you don't even necessarily need to do that because Beast is going to discount it to a 0 anyways. But I think that it gives you another opportunity to like Falcon, Black Swan, and then like get the cards out there. So honestly, and I think that if it goes out as it's expected, I think Hellcow's cracked. I think the card is great. A 4/8 activate that discards 2. Are you kidding me?
Discard or just really just any archetype getting activate is just it's boosted so much, and we're seeing that right here with move. And guys, we said to save your keys because you're going to benefit so much more by having Madam into Araña and then into Scarlet Spider, which is one that's going to just instantly love Araña, right? Yeah. Araña is already a great card to pair with that. So you've got this already kind of 3 cards that love each other, that work together, and I'm excited to see it. And I'm more excited to see things kind of calm down, with Clog or things to hurt move decks as we move out of move in these new releases, if you will. But let's go to talk synergy, man. Let's talk, where we see her being utilized. outside of just getting into kind of tricky locations, whatever you might want to do. Right off the rip, you know what? Let's start with move. I think that's fair. That's, I think that's a lot of what her design is meant to be around a little bit here. And to what I just said, playing Araña down, having Forge, and then activating that into the Human Torch immediately. That's 6 power. Move it over. That's a 12 power play. Go Spider that. That's 24. What is that? That's 24 power, correct? In just a few 1-cost cards played down. Like just that one interaction, that's not, just talking about the easy boost to Dagger, the easy boost to Vulture that you can activate at any time, is going to give move that extra boost, and you can push it into the Madam Web lane, use it again. A lot of combo here.
No, there definitely is. And I think that, like, if you're going to be playing Araña and Madam Web together, you're going to want to play like a macro game where you're going to position Madam Web in a way that you can actually punch, or I'm saying punch like Iron Fist, but you're going to move the card into the Madam Web location. It's also worth noting that Multiple Man's a big winner here. Now, Multiple Man has been like one of the odd ones out for move lately because it takes up a lot of space. There's a lot of clog, and generally speaking, Multiple Man doesn't get the numbers that Dagger will, or Vulture will, or Human Torch will, right? However, if you're going to be playing some sort of like curved movement deck, suddenly you have a turn 1 play into a turn 2 that you can then Doctor Strange, and suddenly it starts to make a little more sense. Like, I still don't think it's going to be the banger combination. I think that move likes to cheat out massive numbers that are far higher than a Multiple Man will get to, but it is worth noting that it is technically a curve play for early collection level players too.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. I would say if you're probably max collection, you won't be doing a lot of Multiple Man in her style of deck, but earlier on and without certain cards you need, it just works out. What I was surprised with, I don't know about you, played a lot of move. The two things that stood out, first of all, this is just going to feed into the Tribunal deck a bit more because you have a way to go all in on the Human Torch. That's what that deck does well. But in a lot of my movement games, what I found out is I still had a lot of the same. I have one lane really big, and then the other lane's doing okay. And so for me, I like to kind of add in a tech card there because then I can have my big lane, and then I have, my Shang-Chi to take care of the other lane. Like, that's kind of what I was rolling with a lot. And I feel like that this could benefit this deck with Araña, with Human Torch, Dagger, Vulture. That style is going to love this because these are all super cheap cards. And then you also have kind of the Shang-Chi, at the back of your belt.
No, I know. And the other side about that is like, yeah, so move has been being countered with a lot of tech. One single big card, it's not going to win the game when there's Shang-Chi, there's Shadow King, which is detrimental to these decks. So you're actually seeing Cosmo being teched into the highest performing meta lists, specifically to protect these cards, right? And that makes a lot of sense, and the cube rates are higher on those decks because of the Cosmo. So you're right to say that, like, hey, sometimes these move decks, it's not just about getting one number massive. Like, you do need some tech to, at the very least, protect your assets.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we didn't see a lot of play with it. I actually did run across a couple of decks that did pull it off. One of which, I don't know who you are, killed my Wong. You wrecked me. And they did do a Madam Web with Spider-Man 2099. Now, I like Araña because, again, you don't have to waste energy to get this to go, and it becomes a 5/11. So kind of unique there. Again, the more we kind of phase out of these all-in locations, just filling up everything, the more value that Spider-Man's going to get. I mean, that is just a simple answer to that symbiote Black Panther play. Everyone's doing that right now. I think there is some possibility that we see a little bit of synergy there with Araña as well.
No, it's without question, right? And the nice thing about it is an activate. You can only move to the right, which does limit Spider-Man 2099's ability to like target the left location, for instance, right? It's impossible to do so. I still think that like Spider-Man 2099 would benefit from a targeted effect. Yeah. An effect that like would target like the highest cost or something, right? Yeah. More stats, targets the lowest cost only. Yeah. I don't know. It needs something so you can at least reliably hit something. Because you're hitting stuff at random, it's never what you want anyways, and it's so clunky that it just doesn't feel worth running.
Yeah, no, I agree. But what we'll shift to from move, because those are the main offenders from move that Araña is going to help out with, and we're going to see that escalate with Madam Web. I think that this is a card, Madam Web, as we break her down in review, but Madam Web's going to love this card. I think she, in a sense, doesn't need it, but definitely helps the archetype as a whole. And we kind of reset yet again. We're figuring out move all over again because we have yet another card. We usually get one card every like 6 months that helps out move. We get 2 in 2 weeks, and that's just a massive complication, if you will. But for me, I brought this up. This was one of the first things I brought up whenever we broke down Araña in the season preview. I'm telling you right away, man, the Forge play with Araña, this is a insane combo. but just simply playing Araña into Brood is super interesting to me. I've been messing around with a little bit of Brood, a little bit of Symbiote, and being able to pull something off like this. I was doing that with Madam Web, but to be able to just... because the way I see this working out and the way it resolves is that Brood is going to get the plus whatever, but it's going to move away from its, young or whatever. So doing pretty much nothing, you'll be able to get, if you have the Forge play, which again, anytime you're trying to line up 3 card combos, like you're asking for a lot here. There's a lot of decks that just win with that. But when you get that, you get a 3 cost 18 power play. But even if you don't, you're still getting a 3 cost 12 power play with one of those, preserving space. Sometimes you want the Brood separated, right? Because then you're kind of spreading those 3 costs, spreading that power. But if you can land a Symbiote Spider-Man on that Brood lane by itself, you can reactivate into that, essentially causing the 3-4 to go to a 3-10. And you're looking at a 30 power lane from there on. That to me is a super insane combo that is plausible.
It's plausible. Like, obviously the draw considerations are difficult, but that's where like Araña's ability to be an activate card actually helps.
Yeah.
It's something that I've learned with Spider-Man 2099. It's not 2099, Spider-Man, Symbiote Spider-Man. I'm confusing the two now. The thing that I really appreciated about Symbiote Spider-Man was the fact that it being an activate allowed me to set up plays that weren't necessarily about playing on curve. It allowed me to flip like the order of play in a way that like allowed me to like have more agency over how certain combos popped off. And so, yeah, of course yours is like a very intricate combo, but it is entirely possible that it definitely could work.
And then obviously Shaw, right? It's just like a very easy like setup card that you can get off. I mean, a turn 6 play of saving your Araña, playing down Shaw, getting that boost, and then doing the Surfer hit. Right away, you're getting a good chunk of power to the card, right? I do think Surfer, funny enough, is going to be a great home for Araña. I think that's going to be a really good shell. Being a 1 cost, you can fit in about 1 every now and then. We'll see how it fits in. It has to replace the Nova Killmonger combo. That's the big one to beat. If it can do that, I can see it having a mainstay there. So you have Move, you have Surfer. Where else do you like Araña?
Okay, so the deck that I'm going to be going right to on my testing is going to be a Nimrod Shuri deck. And I think that, listen, I think that there is a huge opportunity for Araña to be an absolute impact player here, because think about it. Imagine what you're able to do with this setup, okay? You drop Shuri, you activate Araña, you play Nimrod into that location, you get the Araña buff, you get the Shuri double, and then it pumps right, leaving it open for Zola. Yep. Right? You no longer, because with traditional Nimrod Shuri plays, you would be in a position where like you'd 50-50 a Zola play, because Shuri's sitting there. It's just sitting there, right?
Yep.
Now Araña will allow Nimrod to get the buff, double it up, pump it right, and allow you to drop a Zola, which I think is absolutely crazy.
And really, I think we called this out of the preview too, of just like anything with Zola, just kind of loves both Madam Web and Araña here. And that's why I think they're just a great dynamic duo. A lot of the combos they're trying to do, you kind of want both of them to set up a card in a lane by itself. And so that, you have Madam Web as a lean back. Nimrod, excellent example. But this could also just be whatever else that you double up, send in another lane, and then Zola from that point on, right? Phoenix Force. There's just so many decks that are going to love that. I thought Nimrod was a great example. I'll say this too. It's such a tight list. We always want to theory craft with it a bit. Deadpool, it could work with Destroy. I'm not going to lie. I think between if you do get the god line of just having Araña Forge, which it can happen into Deadpool, another 3 are there. But just the fact of playing Araña and chilling and waiting till you need to activate her to get that Deadpool, that's huge instant power.
It is. It absolutely is. And like it helps Wolverine. Sometimes, like, let's say you don't get your pieces and you need to get your engine going, right? You could activate it on X23. Like we've seen people Hulkbuster in X23 because they're like, well, I don't have the hand. I got to do something, right? Yep. So there are lots of opportunities there. You can also consider the way it could be used with Venom to clear a lane, but then put Venom elsewhere, right? Usually you want Venom in by itself because you're looking for a combo play, but the option of moving Venom could be something valuable as well. But yeah, like I think there's a lot of things. You touched on Phoenix Force. I actually think it might be a staple in Phoenix Force.
Yeah.
Phoenix Force is doing some interesting stuff with Symbiote Spider-Man, but I do believe that Araña is likely to be a better component for Phoenix Force, just simply because you can Phoenix Force with the activate, and literally like you can get it moving right away with that multiple man ability, right? I do think there's a lot of potential synergy there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to replace one of the other two that help movement too, because you're getting 2 birds, 1 stone. This is like the perfect Phoenix Force card because it's both moving and it's giving that power instead of one or the other, right? And that is just, I mean, again, Araña could take over Hulkbuster's job, potentially in Deadpool, and it could also, because again, Hulkbuster, a little more power, but you have to play it after it. You can just set and forget with Deadpool, which is very interesting of a line to get things going. So yeah, Phoenix Force is great at what as well. Listen, Symbiote did the job. We still see it. I just think it's fun. It's not going to change this deck because this deck still has the one thing going for it. If it gets this off with the Symbiote, you're going to win. If they don't have an answer to it, you're going to win. It's a very hard deck to beat if you get the draw lines, and this is just going to help. I think it's cool. It's a bit more of a modest Black Panther play, and I like that as well, right? Like, you're just instantly throwing the Araña up there. If you get Forge, cool, but if you don't, then you're able just to throw on a couple more power, get this thing to a 5/12, and then you can get it to 24 or play it into Shuri.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because that's something I want to bring up. I mean, so many of the cards that we fixate on releases, we often try to like get like the most cracked like number out of it. We try to do the most insane combo all the time. The original crafted decks are all about going all in on the new card in a way that sometimes is not designed to. And oftentimes their best performing decks are the ones that are much more modest to the approach of the utilization of the card, where like Araña is not the superstar spotlight card, but it is a supporter that helps other cards do their thing, right? Yeah. It's not about like when Black Panther came out, people were like trying to get him to like 3 billion or whatever to try to break the game. Whereas like realistically, you just win at 32 anyways. So what are you doing, right? So yeah. It's like, it's funny how sometimes we get a little greedy with the design of new decks for new cards. And oftentimes their best spot is something with a relatively modest role.
Yep, absolutely. With Destroy, to circle back on just the last couple I had on here, Dawkin does work. This is finally the Dawkin card. I mentioned Galactus, where you can like set up a lane, whereas you could play like White Widow, throw the thing over, move it. You know, this work, you know, that used to be a gag you would do with Iron Fist. Remember when Galactus came out? That was something people did. But why this is different is because you can activate it at any time. So it gives a bit more support to Galactus that I think is kind of interesting as well. And Galactus kind of coming into his own with some unique deck builds with Namora, with Symbiote. You know, he's cooking a little bit with even Madam Web. So it's cool to see that. Outside of like maybe Elsa, that's the main synergy I have. You got anything else?
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that you did mention it prior as well, but Scarlet Spider is a huge winner with Araña, more than likely. Yeah. We did identify Scarlet Spider as being a very strong contender upon release, and it's kind of interesting to look at like, okay, you got Madam Web. Araña is likely to support Madam Web, and then you have Scarlet Spider, which is likely, you know, it's a support play. Not even a support play, but benefiting from Araña. These cards are working together in a way. It reminds me of the Black Order season, where you had like Corvus, you had Proxima Midnight, right? And so like these cards were designed to work together, and to some degree, like Call Obsidian was the odd one out, but these cards do feel like they're working together. And in this case, it's the Silver Sable that's the odd one out, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a season where like if you have the ability to have all these cards together, I'm sure you're going to find synergistic plays amongst them.
Well, we shall see, guys. We're excited to welcome her into the game, and you know, this does feel like a one-cost card that you don't want to miss out on, just because of that flexibility that could push her over the top. But we're gonna have to see, especially coming in a decent week. Let's go and move on to our next segment, guys. And if you missed it, I did not get a video out on this one for whatever reason. The communication has been just off. It has not been good. It has been not good from the developer team to the creators over here. And so it's just a bummer. So unfortunately, no OTA video on this side, which I think is the first one I've missed. But with that, it was a banger OTA. We had some really strong cards, and things happen and crazy shifts. Should we just go like from the craziest stuff to the least crazy? I mean, we might as well just open the door and get the conversation rolling with War Machine. And Alex, when War Machine came out, we saw the potential. I definitely way overshot what he was going to be, and now he's that. Like, it's exactly what we thought. We saw the combo potential of cards that don't get played, like Ebony Maw, Cole, and Infinite. But then on top of that, just the gimmick of not caring about locations being shut down early, restricting your play, an insane curve play. Look, one of the best. I think he's one of the best cards in the game now. It's crazy.
No, he is legitimately an incredible card. And having it as an ongoing just gives it an incredible amount of flexibility. It's the same thing we're talking about with Activate. Like ongoing has the opportunity to like allow you to play with something and not be so hamstrung by the order at which you play. Right. And like War Machine's original effect was strong, but it forced you to play it on 5 because that's where Ebony Maw and that's where the Infinite were able to be played under most circumstances. I mean, you could play Maw earlier, I guess, but if you're going for like the Infinite synergy, which is one of the main ones, then you need to do that. If someone's playing Storm or there's lockdown locations, then you'd have to time your play with like, okay, I played War Machine and now I got to get in there. The fact that it's an ongoing, it's like a burden lifted off your shoulders. Like you just have free reign to do whatever you want, unless of course the opponent answers it with some sort of tech option. But yeah, the card's cracked and it's buffed. It's buffed because it was a 4/6 on release. So now it's a 4/7 and it has the ongoing.
Exactly. If anything, I don't think the 4/7 is going to last. That's probably going to go down. I think they will stick with the ongoing. People are going to complain. Get ready. It's coming. Like the Storm into Legion play. I mean, just the stocks that have risen from Storm, Ebony, and Infinite. I mean, this made... Like, never mind the gimmick lockdown stuff, which is great, and it works and it wins games. I just love that it makes Infinite a card, and it makes Ebony Maw a card. Ebony being a 1/7, but Infinite being a 6/20 is so dope. Like, I love being able to play this card again, because 20 power isn't, like, soul-crushing anymore, and so it feels fair.
It does, because like, I mean, we had blobs going well beyond that. We have like red Hulks that were getting beyond that as well. Infinite to some degree felt like it got power crept. Like you had to work so hard to get that effect off, and like the sunspot plays weren't really happening anymore. Yeah, no, it definitely feels legit, especially when like realistically. So at best, you got a 4/10, right? A 4/10 is what you like. You know, if you're playing Crossbones, if you're playing a 2, you're looking at a 4/10. You're giving up 3 power in theory to play a War Machine that allows you to play anywhere you want, while also having crushing synergies like Storm Legion, and then just drop Infinite on 6 casually without the downside of having to float energy that prior turn. There's really no downside to this power.
And like Crimson Cosmos, Space Throne, like all these other BS locations that are designed to restrict you, like it opens those doors up, which is just awesome. Like it's just such a cool. And then like, you know, with there being so much of it out there right now, like, you know, you're kind of wasting your energy if they also have, you know, a deck designed around it. And so you have to be, you know, these counter decks will be interesting. I don't see 4/7 War Machine lasting forever. There's no way that the Marvel Snap community is going to let that happen. The mobs will be out on it. I can almost assure you. However, really big change. Love the change. Let's talk about some of the other stuff. So in the buff department, Alex, they make things like War Machine happen, but they don't want Arrow to be back. They don't want her to be where she's at. I will say though, a 5/10 is pretty cool. Now, like, you know, Magneto's got those stats to back him up when he moves cards. It feels good that Arrow's got this premium stat line now to take on the challenge of whatever she, you know, took over to her side. And this is all before Scream comes out too, which is exciting.
Yeah, Scream's definitely going to be a card that benefits from Arrow, and Arrow's going to benefit from Scream. Yeah, it needed the buff. Like it was a completely unplayable card. I think it was a while ago we did the higher or lower, and Arrow was like so dead.
She was the last one. But dude, just looking at my variants again, I'm a happy man. Get to play Arrow, but I don't think this is it. I want to see the old Arrow. But we'll see. A couple other changes we had was Black Cat and Ghost Rider both getting a power point. I thought that was also just a good win. Ghost Rider is this card that I've tried to make happen, and he does have certain decks. Discard with the Hellcow really is going to change the scope of it. But these both needed it, and I'm all here for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, with the original kind of Black Cat was a 4/9 that got moved to 4/10, then back to 4/9, wasn't it?
No, I think it was like a 4/8 to a 4/9 to now a 4/10.
Is that what happened? Because I know it's been changed a couple times, because it was actually a core component of Hela. I think you're right. It was a 4/8 that got buffed and got buffed again. But it was actually seeing play with Hela when Hela was going absolutely insane. But then post Hela nerf, what are you doing that? You're gonna get this podcast shut down.
I'm looking at the Prism background. You get your head out of the gutter, Alex. Jeez.
My bad, man. My bad. But yeah, so she's got a round of different buffs. But I do think that like she needed something because she was unplayable. And to buff both her and Ghost Rider, I think makes a lot of sense because they are often played together. You ruined you completely threw me off, man. I'm totally derailed.
No, you're great. That is very true. It's cool though having Ghost Rider now as this 4/4 plus Black Cat. So you have a 14 power play with a 4 cost. It's sweet. The thing that's tough about it, though, is Ghost Rider. It's like, oh, man, 414 is awesome, but sometimes you get rid of something else, and then you're like, which one is it? Like, you know, and it's kind of awkward. And so, you know, I don't know if this is the final form that we'll see Ghost Rider. It's a great start, though. I'm excited to see what happens with Activate. I want them to experiment more with Activate. I think they said they did 2 cards. Like, come on, guys. Let's try to test the waters on some OTAs coming up with some of these cards that aren't getting play. One of which cards that I see get played that I'm kind of shocked that got a small buff was Moon Girl, and this is another card, man, I'm all here for.
Buddy, come on. Okay, first of all, you're like, yo, buff some cards that we don't play ever. They did that with War Machine. Now everyone's crying. It's like,
oh, I know, dude.
They just did that.
Yeah.
But also, it's so funny. Here's a perfect example why Moon Girl needed something. I actually still think this should be an Activate card. It was one of the ones we talked about being an Activate card. It would have been so good that way. It didn't need an extra power. There is no podcast on the planet that copes as hard as you and I do with Moon Girl, with so many card releases. Cozy saying, you know what, there's always the double up deck is almost like ingrained in every single podcast. We just loop every time you say that, right? And it always has to do with Moon Girl. But you know what's funny? I know I test it. I know you test it. And they never make the cut. They're never good enough. It's always too awkward. She needed something, but I'm not sure if it was power.
You hit the nail on the head. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Moon Girl and her double up decks. And that it was also just a 3 for 3 on the bingo cards. If you guys did bet the parlay, you just won for the most common sayings that we have here on the Snapchat. Hey, almost 2 years of episodes. And listen, we don't repeat ourselves too much. But yeah, Moon Girl I'm excited with. I've been testing with War Machine outside of just the lockdown gimmicks. I've been testing the Infinite She-Hulk double up thing, but if this got Activate, bro, it would be crazy. Like that would be a massive change and identity to the card. Let's wrap it up. We do have one more buff, and then we have a couple nerfs. Agatha Harkness got herself a buff. She stayed the same, but now you get control on the odd turns, being 1, 3, 5. This is crazy. This is cool. I'm excited to see Agatha being semi-competitive and not just a meme deck.
But I can't. You're so in on Agatha. You bought the board, right? You had to.
No, this was my free one with the album, but I had to put it on her. Yes.
That's awesome, man. And honestly, the decks have been performing well. Like, it's no joke. They are legit performers. Like, they are in the top meta shares. The reason, a couple things. First of all, I covered her on my Who is Agatha Harkness on my second channel, guys. I'm telling you, if there's a video I want you guys to check out, it's that. She, like, one-shots people. She's insane. She's way better. She's not as much of a villain as I thought. Like, very cool backstory. Go check that out. However, with Agatha, what I love about it, buddy, is that it gives you turn 3. People wanted her to do the even or the odd turns. I disagree. The Corvuses, the Waves, the cards that can get her out early are all 3 costs. And so this has worked really well with the Lady Sifs and all of that to make it happen and get that control back. Buddy, talking about Agatha, honestly, first of all, yeah, everything you said is correct. Like, there's legit synergy now, and like the agency gets awesome. But in Marvel Midnight Suns, she is legit like the nicest character. Like, she's like the grandmother that's taking care of everybody. That like, oh, like, don't worry, I still love you. Like, even though you did this to me, and I don't want to spoil the story, but like, it's like she got a bit of a rough go in that game, and like she's like very forgiving and like legit, just like it's like lore accurate, and so it's pretty cool. But also, here's something that's notable about Marvel: characters have pretty wide arcs of what they're capable of.
Oh yeah,
right? It's like,
oh yeah.
It's so funny. I do this thing where like you can gamble on whether or not like mystery variant's going to be a hero or a villain while I'm streaming, and so often people are like, that was a hero in 1964. Everyone's like, it's a villain as of 1986.
Like the Magneto argument. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. There are so many characters like that. I think she's like an anti-hero, but definitely in like MCU she plays more of the villain role. But we'll have to see. The show comes out this week, Alex. Nerf-wise though, we had Mockingbird go to a 6/9. I think, again, she'll still be the decks that she's in. She may not be, that super fun. Mockingbird's Mockingbird, though, right? I mean, not much to say there.
No, yeah, it's still good. And it's funny because, like, I'm just thinking about, like, oh, remember when that was a 5/10? Or 5/9, right? It was 5/9.
No, 5/9. It was a 5/9.
5/9. Like, basically, like, how amazing was that?
Yeah, I know.
Now it's a 6/9. It's nice, but also, like, not nice.
5/7 Sandman on reveal. Next turn, cards cost 1 more. Did they finally nail this, giving him the Dream Dimension ability, or is it still kind of awkward?
Yeah, because everyone loves Dream Dimension.
Yeah, it's my favorite location.
I mean, it's Mobius and Mobius stonks up, I guess, but I don't think anyone cares.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's still going to be played in some of the decks that you had him in, but he's lost a lot of that identity. They definitely, to me, it's so funny. No Professor X. No Sandman. Hey, guys, here's the new War Machine. Go ahead and have fun. We're shutting everything down and constricting.
Control the timing, eh?
I know. It's interesting. I want War Machine to stay in a world, but I don't think he will in the stats that he is.
No, and I actually, I didn't mind the effect. Like, the original effect, I thought Sandman was okay. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I'd rather have the old one than this one.
Really? Why? So, as in, why? Just explain.
Because I like that identity. I wish this was just a new card that was released. Like, I feel like we didn't need to lose that identity of what Sandman was. I think that could have stayed, and this could have been a new release that was, kind of specifically tailored for what the meta is and how they wanted it to precisely be. I guess it's always a question of okay, well, they clearly have a pipeline of cards they're looking forward to, and maybe this didn't fit, but I do think there's a space for a card that restricts the amount of cards you can play per turn.
Okay, I like it. Good point. So that is the OTA, guys. Pretty massive one at that. That definitely had a good, share of impact. But outside of Arana, outside the OTA, we end with, and it's been a while since it's been on this side of the Snapchat, but our favorite cards at every cost. Alex and I are going to pick one card out. One. I
already have
one
7
card.
listed.
I'm going to edit it out, so have fun with that. I mean,
your editing's going to suck, man.
It is going to suck. Not necessarily the best, but in the season, which ones we've been enjoying the most. And we start, as always, with the one-cost cards. Alex, kick us off, buddy. Who is the one-cost favorite card this month?
Can we do a favorite and an honorable mention, or is that just too much?
How about you can talk about your favorite and then just say your honorable mention, but you don't need to elaborate.
Okay. All right. Okay. So at the one cost, I have fallen back in love with the Hood. I think the Hood has had a major resurgence, man. This is a card that I don't think people realize is as good as it is from a stats perspective and now from a junk perspective. There are so many synergistic cards with the Hood right now, whether you're bouncing it, whether you're kicking it over. It doesn't matter what you're doing with this card. I think this has been the season where the Hood has really showcased itself for being a legitimate one-drop.
That's a cool pick. I would agree. I think there's so many ways to get benefit from the -3 or kind of escape from it, if you will. So I love that. For me, man, a lot to pick from. I'm going to go with Black Knight. I just think Black Knight's such a cool card. Yeah, I think it's a cool card. I've been playing a lot more of it lately. I think with the War Machine gimmick, I was doing a lot and leaning into that. You've got both playing him down on 1, having Black Cat get rid of herself. You just get a 10-power card on the nose right away. It's just fun, and this is without the Hell Cow and what's going to happen there. I'm enjoying Black Knight. I think this has been kind of my favorite card outside maybe some of the obvious stuff that we could pick. That's all the time. Honorable mention by name. What is it?
Oh, you're giving me an actual chance? No, I don't want to tell you now. But you said that okay, you want me to tell? Okay, can I say my honorable mention?
Just by the name? Yeah, just say it. What is it?
Silver Sable.
I knew it. I actually thought she was going to be your main one. I was actually shocked that with the love for Sable, she didn't make your first pick, which is fair. My honorable mention is, honestly, bro, just a little Hydration Bob, as you like to call him. I think
Hydration Robert.
Yeah, the 1-5 stat line is just cool. All right, 2 cost, man. 2 cost. What do you have as your favorite this month?
You know what? Okay, so this is going to be a bit of an interesting one. It should come to no surprise that with the release of Madam Web, and I spent a lot of time playing a lot of Move, even coming towards the release of Madam Web. I wanted to get my practice in. I was even playing some Phoenix Force, and I was playing a lot of Dagger. And I got to tell you, there is no 2-drop in this game that puts up stats like Dagger does.
Yeah,
it's actually crazy if you think about it. To the point where I'm like, if Move can't be meta defining with a 2, I don't know, what the hell does this get to half the time? 36? You know what I mean? If that's not enough, it's what do we need to do? Is it possible that Move is just asynchronous with what this game is? Because this card is so stupid.
Thank you for mentioning. I saw this list going around without Dagger in the Move, and I was just like, you guys are doing yourself a disservice. Let me tell you why. With Araña now, which we just went over so quickly, yeah, Dagger. Guys, anytime you have Araña on the board and you draw Dagger at any moment, as long as the left lane isn't the one that's stacked, let's say 3 cards, 11 power. You got a 2/11. Hello. 2/11. Ridiculous. You could get that up, obviously, to a 2/14, which is just, at that point, a Giganto. Yes. a Giganto. So Dagger, and that's only moving that once, right? One time. You can get it way higher than that. I agree. Dagger, absolutely correct. Nuts. Love it, buddy. And she survived. She did not get hit with the OTA, which means that maybe the stats is going to keep her back. Now, I did say this, I think, on your side, and I'm standing by it yet again. USA Agent, whatever you want to call him. He's my favorite card in the 2-cost slot. I think, again, people have a real tough time learning how to play against him, and the way that he's working to hold his own in lanes is crazy. The card's so good for a 2-cost card. You could play him late, you could play him early. I love him as just a flex card in some decks. He's cool.
I don't know what you're reading, but I see USA Gent. And yes, he is absolutely incredible. And listen, and a lot of the ongoing decks have been performing incredibly with him. And now that you have the War Machine, you can play US Agent, you can play Goose, you can play all these things anywhere you want, and you know where they're going to be playing the power. You know what? It's so funny to see that, like, you're talking about your favorite cards of the month, we're talking about US Agent.
I know,
you know,
dude.
Considering how far has this guy come?
He has definitely transcended. Like, he and War Machine are 2 cards that came out lackluster. Both have just gone way up in stocks. And it's cool to see that, you know, if something does underperform, it'll eventually get touched up by the Snap team. 3-cost cards, Mr. Alex.
Honorable mention. I knew it was going to happen.
Okay, what do you want?
I knew we were going to forget. See?
Who do you like?
Kate Bishop.
You didn't like her long ago.
You told me I can't elaborate.
Yeah, you can't, but you were very lukewarm on her. I remember that. I'm not going to let you elaborate. But I recall you not being thrilled by her, and I'm shocked. Color me shocked. All right, Kate Bishop for Alex. I don't even know if I had a runner-up here. It would probably be what you just said, Madam Web Dagger, something like that would be my pick. 3-cost, Alex. What do you like?
Cosmo, baby, the good boy is back.
Yeah.
Cosmo has been such a good boy. Such a good boy. And it really helped out with the whole symbiote Spider-Man situation and the Galactus and like all the stuff that was happening there.
Yeah.
Such a good tech card. And it's funny because it like disappeared. Completely disappeared, and that allowed those Nomura decks to just go crazy. Like literally, like I'm playing Wong. I know you don't have Cosmo, so don't snap. I snap. You know what I mean? And like now Cosmo is legit back and making its way defensively into a number of move decks, like we were talking about prior. But just overall, like it feels like he's kind of everywhere. And I mean, once War Machine gets dealt with, I think people might start complaining about Cosmo next, but he's probably gonna just slip out when things settle down. My
problem is I just play too many decks that pop off with on reveal stuff, and so I never want Cosmo in there to hurt myself. But yeah, he's definitely able to just you get the snap. They always snap when they play the symbiote, right, in its own lane. And if you got Cosmo, you like snap away, my sweet summer child. Snap away. 3-cost card for me, man. A lot to pick from here. I think I'm going to go with Hope Summers. I do. You know, the fact that you can just so simply ramp with this without doing anything extra fancy, it's just so cracked. But playing Hope into a War Machine on her lane and playing Infinite the next turn is so cool. Or skipping that turn and playing the She-Hulk and Infinite, not worrying about the Psylocke. Hope Summers just reigns as that queen that's so flexible, works with a lot of decks, works with combo making. I love her.
Listen, I think that Hope Summers might be the most just disrespected card in Snap right now. Like in terms of like people not really appreciating how good this card. It's still a 5-star card. It's still one of the best cards that you can use to ramp consistently. We've got a lot of like tools in Marvel Snap to like, you know, increase ramp, and we got Wiccan, right? Like there's things we've gotten which have kind of stepped on Hope Summers' toes a little bit. But make no mistake, this is still a remarkable card, and it's gonna make its comeback soon. It's kind of being forgotten.
Yeah, I agree, man. Honorable mention by name. Mine's Red Guardian.
Mine is Beast.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Yeah,
PhD
man.
and bounce. You're playing again, huh?
Can I elaborate on this one?
Yeah,
I got to tell you. Okay. So I was doing this balance-based surfer deck.
Okay.
Which I was having so much fun with. And Beast was actually legit in it. I was like this silver sable bounce deck, and it was good. It was good. I had like I could use Viper in it. I could kick over the hood, and then I could buff like Beast, Viper, and others with the silver server. There was a little bit of copium, a little bit, but it was good.
Damn, dude, I love it. Love to see it, dude. Beast, yeah, I get why they tamed him down. It's gonna make even more sense as we move along, I think. For 4 costs, I'm gonna limit us to not say War Machine just because of the conversations we've had around him lately. And so for forecast, man, I'll kick us off this time. It was tough, man. There's one card I want to pick so bad, but how do I not say Symbiote Spider-Man? And in this point, I do want to say, can we get a select for activate down here? Because I hate not having that. But Symbiote Spider-Man, just how can we not? Cool combo card, could do a lot, has a lot of fun synergy, can make room for other cards, can kind of hold a space down to protect you from clog, and then you go back into that. Love what they did with the card. People think he may even get buffed. I think that's kind of crazy, but we'll have to see.
Buddy, while we're talking about stuff that we'd like to see, like the activate being added, we also fixed that bug where, like, for the last 9 months, the costs of the cards remain highlighted, and like while you're trying to deck build, you can't figure out. It drives me insane.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely insane. Yeah, Symbiote Spider-Man's solid. I am seeing it has dropped off from a meta share perspective. Like, I do still think the card is really good, and I think it's really interesting what it does. It's just like, I think that there's so much happening with the meta and how it's been shifting that, like, it wasn't the sexy new toy for long enough.
Yeah.
There was too many bangers coming out that kind of stepped on his toes. Like any other month, this card would have just reigned supreme for a while. I still think it's pretty solid. Could I see it getting another power? Honestly, I could, maybe. But, like, I still think it's okay.
We'll see. I mean, Iron Lad's so consistent still because of what he does, and I think this is still that adjacent card to it. In a sense.
Yeah,
and so it's going to be fine down the line. It's going to be a good card. Don't regret the purchase there, probably. I think the forecast card you're going to pick was the one that I was right there with. Who is it?
Let's hear it, buddy. Take a guess. I want to see.
Atuma.
Oh, that's my honorable mention.
Okay.
So close.
Fair enough.
So close.
Who's your main card?
Let's talk about him.
I mean, listen, this is as big as the Viper, if not bigger, for the identity of what it did for him and as a card. It's crazy. It's the Madam Web of Destroyer, kind of, right? Like, you don't have to worry about it. You get free destruction. It's so good for Wolverine. It's so good for Deadpool. It's so good for Nimrod. What a great card.
Honestly, what a fantastic change they made here. I love that it's also, like, similar to, like, Orca and Namor as well, like, in their own way. Orca wants to be by himself. Atuma wants to also be by himself, forces himself to be by himself.
Yep.
And Namor also wants to be by himself. Also, I'm using Namor and Namor interchangeably because, like, apparently that's a whole discussion that has no answer. But yeah, I love what they did to Atuma. It's fantastic.
Who's your forecast pick?
Okay, my forecast pick is Miss Marvel, 100%. And I think that, like, me playing Miss Marvel early on with Madam Web specifically, I was like, damn, like, this card is, it's underappreciated. Its power stats are, like, crazy at the 4 cost. Like, it's still crazy how much power. Like, it's 14 power for 4, right? And yes, of course, you need some activators and stuff like that. But I really like the way Madam Web was able to kind of reorder the board, get what you need. Oh, this Howard the Duck needs to be there. Oh, you kicked the Rock over or a Hood over? Well, I'll just move it over here and activate Miss Marvel with it. Thank you very much. There was so much you could do with Miss Marvel, and I feel like it's been in such a rough spot for so long. It was finally nice to pull it out again.
I think it's always been good, too. I think people just weren't playing it. Like, I think it's just a good card that people weren't playing in the sense of, yeah, you know what? I'll spoil one of my other card picks with it. So I'll move on. But yeah, I like the pick a lot, dude. Glad you gave her some justice. 5 cost, man. Kind of usually easy. I thought it was a lot harder this time. A lot of picks to go between. For me, though, listen, when I have to restrict myself from a card because people don't have it, and all I want to do is make decks around it, but again, people don't have it, it's Namora. How is it not Namora? She is just so good with these cards coming out. Pretty much all of them that have come out. Love Namora. The Galactus shenanigans she can do with Symbiote is hilarious. What it is all decks need multiple win conditions, and by herself in one card, you have kind of your own win condition, and it's amazing.
And the deck also fits in, like, the Odin White Tiger stuff as well. It's just good, and it just plays good cards. Like, I'm making a deck with Jeff Nocturne, and, like, okay, like, all of a sudden it's like, all these are great cards. Like, there's nothing bad here. If anything, the weaker card is like a Wong. It's like, that's like the greedier one, right? Yeah. But yeah, Nomora's fantastic, and this is a great example of multiple win conditions because you got the Nomora play for the super vertical lanes, like, kind of like you're building skyscrapers, right? And then you have I'm just going to zoo out with these tigers you really can't do anything against. Like, you can't Shang-Chi them, you can't Shadow King them. These tigers are basically just power that's just shooting everywhere, and I don't even know where they're going to go, and neither do you. So yeah, definitely multiple win conditions here.
What is your 5 cost?
My 5 cost, so this one's interesting because I'm going with Legion. I do like Legion a lot, and this was before the changes to to War Machine. I thought Legion was just doing well. It's funny because Legion was starting to see play again, and then the War Machine thing happened, and then now Legion's like, Legion's doing Legion things, just shutting down the board state and stuff like that. It made me wonder. So Magic is actually kind of on its way down. We're not seeing as much Magic play. We're not seeing as much, like, High Evo is actually seeing a little bit of play here and there with some of the cards that have been released, but we're not seeing a lot of Magic in the skip turn 6 type stuff. I wonder if instead of nerfing War Machine, they change Legion to a 6 cost, because it essentially nullifies that combo. Maybe give them way more power. Still flipping the locations on turn 6 is a massive surprise play, depending on what those locations are. And that breaks that combo without killing the new War Machine. You know what I mean? I wonder about that.
That's interesting. That is actually a good solution, like keeping in a change they just did. Like, we've only seen one time, I think, and I might be wrong here, where they made a change and they instantly reverted it, and that was Enchantress. As like a
Mobius and Mobius as well, technically.
Yeah, as a release to that. Yeah, I was thinking more OTA designed, but
because Enchantress was at 4/6, and then like everyone's like, I'm just playing this crap everywhere, and then it's like, what do we do? We can't play any cards.
Like, get rid of, which I still think she could use it, man. She just not played as much, like, but whatever. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. But yeah, that's a good pick and a good shout out for that. What is your honorable mention for 5?
Black Panther, for all the reasons why we discussed prior. It was nice to play him again.
Yeah, okay, I like it. I dig it. Yeah, 5 for me. I think we'll always be Iron Man. I just play that card way too much. 6 cost, man. I'll be quick on mine. Listen, it's why you said you love Miss Marvel. The simple combination of this and this is insane. Doctor Doom. I play Doctor Doom in almost all my decks again. All of them. Like, whether it be Patriot, that I'm playing a ton of recently, but also just having that in Lockdown, having that with Miss Marvel for the double play. Just, he does his thing. He does his thing so well.
I mean, literally one of the staples of the 6 costs, right? They dropped the Doom bots to 4. Remember that? And it was like, this is awful. Like, it is the baseline 6 drop. I don't think it'll ever be changed again. How can you possibly say anything negative about Doctor Doom? This is just a beautiful card. He's going to be entering the MCU as well. Can't wait for that. A lot of excitement around Doctor Doom.
Yeah, buddy. What's your 6?
Want to send some love for Spectrum.
Nice.
We're seeing ongoing decks actually be legit. War Machine being legit. Madam Web technically an ongoing as well. Seeing play in ongoing decks. Spectrum's legit, like, honestly. And it's funny because I used to play these Wong Spectrum decks, which are super greedy. And, you know, you're buffing the Wong anyway. He was getting up to 6 power, the double proc 4 across the board. It was pretty good, right? And I've kind of come to learn that, like, you know what? That +2 is just enough. It's just enough. And with the War Machine, you're able to, like, sneak out the Ebony Maws, which is another inexpensive card that can get hit with the +1 again, or +2, I should say, by Spectrum. This is just a good card. And this was a 6/7 at one point, right? Like, they buffed to 6/7, then they brought it back down.
Yeah. That was actually a quick change that they did. They did 6/7 right back down to 6/6. That's another one. Yeah.
But anyways, Spectrum for me, I've actually legitimately loved playing it.
Cool, man. Honorable mention Ultron, because I love him outside. Now that Sandman's done, I can play him again without feeling scummy about it. What is your honorable mention?
Similar to Black Panther, for similar reasons, it's G-Man.
Hey, like it, buddy. Well, guys, we've got ourselves a move week coming up, and next week butts us up into Scarlet Spider. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Breaking Down Araña and our OTA thoughts, our favorite cards. And over there on Alex's side, we're talking about Madam Web in review, the archetype MVPs. I'm looking forward to that conversation, bud, and the Snapchat mailbag. You guys have a good one. Have a great one. Till the next one. Happy snapping.